Hi, I'm going to share with you today a layout created using the Jack paper packet and some of the other embellishments that we have in our Seasonal Expressions catalogue, which finishes at the end of this month. So the Jack paper packet you can purchase for $18 New Zealand, that is, and I am going to use it with not the Jack card making or scrapbooking stamp set, but actually one called Camping Life, and it goes along with the Jack papers quite nicely. It's got mountains and it has the words Camping Life, which I'm actually going to title this layout. And it has a few other quite cool things. I was showing a friend yesterday, and it's got like a camper van and a little tent and marshmallows on a stick, so it's kind of cool. Now I'm going to work with 3 photos. A lot of the pages I've shared lately have just the one photo, but for this camp, just to get a better picture of the experience for my for the camp that my daughter went on, it's just got the girls packing away the tents. Now this is at the end of, I can't even remember how long it is. I'm going to leave a space at the bottom for my daughter to journal it, but it was a 10 to 14 day camp. They're out there in branches, which is sort of a bit remote from where we live, and the students didn't have showers or flushing toilets. When they get there, they have to dig their own toilets and things like that. So it really was full-on camping life and not glamping as often we tend to do more often. So I'm laying out the stamps here, and because they're see-through, I can sort of see what else is going on the page, but it gives you an idea of positioning and how you want things to look. So I'm just trimming down the Picture My Life cards that come in the paper pack with the Jack paper collection. So there's 2 of these sheets in each pack, along with 2 of each of the sheets of paper. So I have had a little bit of a play with the papers and had to think about what colours and ideas will suit. But I noticed that there's a journaling card here that's just got the trees on it, and I decided that that would fit quite nicely with Camping Life stamped on top of it. And it just sort of fits with the environment for the campers. So again, just repositioning and playing with these photos. Took a while to sort of get how I sort of wanted it to look in the end right. And there's something I think about when you use multiple pages, it seems to suit a cleaner look in the layout. So playing with different papers here again and checking out what's going to work nicely and what's not. And I go back to the grey sort of plaid pattern that I initially had the photos sat on, and then I decided I quite liked my white cardstock with the paper behind a little bit later on. So I'm going to use the ruler here just to work out the size I need to trim this paper down to, and I decided it needed to be 11 by 9 inches. So to start with, I did the 11 but only slid it down to about 9, and that way I did leave as much of the paper behind that can be used for other things. So having to use a bit of maths planning thinking there as to where to cut the paper from and to. So just going up to that mark, and there I've got my nice piece ready to go on with the paper left behind. So I'm going to tuck this in behind the photographs as I continue arranging the page to choose how I want it to look. So there's that Camping Life thing with the grey in behind it. At the moment it's looking all very clean and tidy, and I decided to use the zip strip off this grey plaid paper, and I'm going to put that down the bottom of the layout, and it's not till a little bit later on that I decide how I'm going to finish that bit off, but I'll show you that when I get to it. So removing all the bits and pieces out of the way and having a think here about what I'm going to put on next. So there's a few more of the cards there, and I did wonder about putting some of those tucked in behind it, but I decided that these mountains had sort of been looking at me in this Camping Life set, and I think a few of these placed along the top and inked up there would look quite nice. And there's quite a cute little tent that will finish off in the bottom corner there nicely. So I did toy with putting that in a few different places, but decided there was about right. I wondered about putting the compass on the page too, but decided that would just be a little bit too much. So you can see that where I've got the tent and the Camping Life and the mountain, it kind of creates a triangle, and that's another design element that can be used in pages that just seems to make it more aesthetically pleasing to people when they look at it. So I'm going to stamp it in the mountains in black, and I'm going to put 2 of these along the top of the layout. So there's one, and I decide with the second one not to line it up perfectly and just to make it a little bit higher up. Because mountains don't seem to sit in perfect lines in real life, so I just wanted to change that a little bit. And while I was looking at these, because design works in 3s, I decided that I would actually stamp another set of mountains, but I would use some foam tape to lift them up a little bit. So I've got to clean off this stamp quite well because I'm going to use a lighter coloured ink, and I had a look in the seasonal expressions for May to August, and I checked the colours, and so on the pages, on the Jack paper pages where you go to the information, it's got some information down the bottom under the workshops your way, and it says like make 6 cards, 2 of each design, and then it's got a list of inks that are good to buy to go with the set, and juniper was one of those, so that's how I picked out the juniper colour. The other place you can look for suitable matching inks is actually on the zip strip in these kits, and that has information about the colours that work with these paper packs. And so it's quite handy if you're trying to choose some colours to buy when you're getting getting a kit. And so, for example, the Jack suggests black, juniper, ruby, slate, sweet leaf, whisper or white daisy. But I use juniper, stamped on the mountains, and then just fussy cut around it. And again, just playing with positioning, because I'm going to sort of stick these mountains on, the juniper mountains on with the adhesive tape. I'm just waiting. I'm going to wait till last to stick them down. So now to stick, just to stamp on the camping life bit on the top there of this journaling card from the picture My Life, or the pocket page type sheet that comes with these kits. So I decided to do this in the black. It'll stand out quite nicely. I think that it would also work really well using the pewter, which has come out in the new basics stamp set. Just it would stand out enough but not take over, as it possibly is doing, although it ties in nicely with the mountains at the top and the tent that I stamped later down the bottom. And so just that final little stamp of the tents down the bottom. Nice and neat. So you'll see that I also turned over my black mat, and that's because the foam side, there's a foam side on one side and there's a nice working surface on the other, but the foam side makes a really nice impression when you're stamping with it. So I'm going to start roughing up the edges, and so I'm using a distresser just to mess it up a bit, because camping isn't clean and neat and tidy like this layout's shaping up to be, with lots of straight corners and lined up photos. But by roughing up the edge, just gives it a little bit more of a natural or back to nature feel. So I decided to stick the photos down so that I can work out where I'm actually going to place the zip strip down the bottom, and there's the missing stamp set that I was looking for before. And so I have put tape on the photograph, and I'm going to sort of hold the other one there while I line it up. You could measure it and work out exactly where you want them, but I'm happy to go with where it looks, so that it looks right from my eye's perspective. So getting these stuck down. Each year at brunches, my husband has gone in to pick up the girls at the end of the camp. I think he sometimes takes them in as well, but it was really good that he did go in. He was able to capture some photos of the cleanup and bits and pieces. Girls aren't great at capturing these things, so it's nice to actually have some of it recorded. Brunches is a pretty amazing camp, so while they're in there for the entire camp, they're doing kayak treks, they're doing tramps, they sort of do a land search and rescue type thing, I think. Different activities that are out in the middle of nowhere and just growing as young people before they get into full study years as Year 11 students. So it's a really cool camp, and my youngest son will be going on it at the end of this year. No, I'm just thinking about that. It won't be till next year that he goes. He's got a different camp, an adventure type camp. They do an activity for a day or two this year instead. But being at their high school and living in the area we do, it's quite awesome that they get some of these experiences. So I decided with the zip strip that I would put it down here, and just to rough it up a little bit again, I'm going to use some of the twine that comes with it. And so this is the Whisper Thick twine, and if you were getting a Workshops Your Way Jack kit, this comes in it, along with some black and white dots and the complements. I had purchased the Workshops Your Way kit, but I was at a camp a month ago, and I was going to use it at the camp, but a lady really loved it, so I actually sold it to her and then decided to replace it with just the paper rather than the full kit. So I just finished that off camera and have put the stitching in. I decided just to do single, just so that you can see the actual stitches down the bottom. And just giving this some really good tape runner runs through and lining it up to work out where it's going to look right on the layout. So now I get to use the foam tape to stick down my mountain that I stamped in the juniper and fussy cut along the top. So choosing a few spots just so that this would sit nicely and not get pressured down too much, and peeling off the backing. And so where I placed it just goes over a line of trees on the photograph. It's not part of the story, so it was okay to cover it up. So I'm using the shimmer brush, just the clear one here, to put in the snow peaks. It's not highly obvious if you're looking from here, but it's just one of those little details that if you do look closely at the page, it's there. So I've just added a little bit of journaling note, just branches year 10 camp 2016 down the bottom, and I'm going to ask my daughter when she finishes work tonight if she could just add a few notes about the camp down the bottom there. And so I decided to use some of the grey dots from an enamel gems set that was in the last annual inspirations, and I haven't checked to see if they're in the new one yet. So I'm just using these just in a few spots just to change it up a bit. So I did these in sets of 3. And just some shots of my work. These pages, so you can see the lift of the mountains up there, and the dots and stitching down the bottom. Another one of the mountains. Thanks for watching.